Hi guys, welcome to another episode of MBTI Happy Hour with me alone for the first time. Okay, I'm just gonna drink this wine. Okay, that was just for dramatic effect. I don't know. You guys can see there's just a little bit left. Anyway, today I'm doing a topic that was requested by like 2 people, so at least some of you want this. And it's associating different MBTI types with board games. Let's get started. ISTJ, I put Scrabble. And I think for the SI dominance, I just wanted to do something that requires a lot of knowledge of different words and stuff. Also, I think the FI, or lack of FE, is relevant because in Scrabble, it's basically everyone for themselves and there's not really any collaboration. And also, sometimes in Scrabble, you think of like the one word that saves the day, and inferior and E could fit in that case. For ESFJ, this one's pretty obvious, but I ended up putting Monopoly. Just even the word Monopoly is very high TE, low FI. Like, Monopoly is fairly methodical, and it requires a lot of patience, so for that reason I thought of SI instead of SE. Moving on to the INTJ, this one is also fairly obvious, but I ended up putting chess. I think chess is a very predictive game in that you have to foresee the future and how all these different pieces will move around to bring victory, which is characteristic of an INTE. And also, I thought of SE instead of SI because the pieces are supposed to represent the actual war positions. And in that sense, it's kind of more visceral feeling, and thus I thought of SE. Oh, my boyfriend also mentioned the game Warhammer is also INTJ-like, but I'm not really sure. I've never really played that game, so let me know what you guys think. For ENTJ, I put the game of Risk. So I've never really played this game, but apparently it's you are one country and you're trying to take over the world, which also sounds like very dominant TE, and there's a lot of strategy involved, which made me also think of NI. And also, like, literally going to war, it also made me think of SE over SI, whereas I guess Monopoly, the economy, it's very like removed from the visceral reality, which made me think of SI. Okay, moving on to the TPs. For ISTP, I put Jenga. It took me a while to think of this, but I ended up pulling in the far-fetched reason that, like, for Jenga, you need some TI reasoning of physics. Like, you have to predict, or you have to think about which blocks are gonna fall, and I thought of that as TI because physics. Also, like, you know, there's that whole ninja stereotype, and Jenga literally sounds like ninja. But also, like, it's a very physical game, which made me think of SE. Like, you have to have the physical skills and precision to not make the blocks fall, and also predicting being like NI, which blocks will make it more difficult for the other people. For ESTP, I put Twister. That was a pretty obvious one. I thought for FE, you had to be somewhat comfortable with other people and like doing these activities with other people, and obviously Twister is a very social game, which made me think of FE, and also it's a very physical game, which obviously made me think of SE. Wow, these are so short. I'm so to the point. Oh my god, I need like Alex. Moving on to the INTP, this one was the hardest one for me to think of. Well, at first I thought of like a Rubik's Cube. Like, what game is the most similar to a Rubik's Cube? And I couldn't really think of one, but I ended up putting Reversey. So yeah, unlike the SE games that maybe have the blocks represent real things in the environment, I feel like the Reversey pieces, the black and white, it's purely a theoretical thing. Yeah, like the grid and the black and white pieces, they don't really represent anything. It's just like, okay, here's your TI grid. And I feel like in Reversey, it's a purely logical thing. Like, some pieces are just, or some positions on the Reversey board are just beneficial and will make you win, and other places on the board are just not good and you should avoid those pieces. So that made me think of SI. You have to kind of remember which positions are more beneficial in the whole grid, and which pieces get flipped around made me think of like TI logic. But yeah, let me know if you guys think of a better game to represent INTPs. Okay, moving on to the ENTP, I really like this game. It's called Cards Against Humanity. So I think that for Cards Against Humanity, some of the funniest responses are really unexpected, and you wouldn't necessarily make that connection between the black card and the white card, which made me think of the high and E of ENTPs. And I think there's like a huge social element, because not only do you have to be funny, you have to predict what the cards are thinks is funny, like who is the judge of you guys. So I thought of that as the FE of ENTPs. For ISFJ, similar to the ISTJ, like I thought of SI dominant as knowing a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff, but instead of doing words, I thought of Trivial Pursuit. And I feel like for FE, you have to know some stuff about the society that you live in and maybe celebrities and pop culture, which is what Trivial Pursuit includes. So I thought of ISFJ. For ESFJ, I almost put the game of life, because you're going through the milestones that are socially constructed throughout life. But then I decided to put like one of my favorite games ever, which is Codenames. If you've ever seen that word associations game that I played with Alex, those cards were actually from the game Codenames. It's really fun. You're supposed to basically find a one-word way to describe a bunch of different pictures, and the pictures themselves look really in E in that they're kind of surreal, and some of them are somewhat abstract. And the thought of like pinpointing the one word to describe them made me think of SI, so it's like SI and E. Also, you're supposed to work in a group, so a lot of it is predicting what your partner thinks the word is, or how your partner will interpret the word. So I thought dominant FE would fit well in that case. For INFJ, I thought of the Settlers of Catan, which I also really like, but the game is fairly strategic, even though there's a lot of luck-based elements, but you still have to predict, which land will be the most fertile and come up with some predictions through the numbers. Like some dice numbers are more likely to happen and others are less likely. And then there's also a social element, like it is more of a competitive rather than collaborative game, but you do have to gauge others. And when I played it with others, sometimes people form alliances, which I also thought was like very FE. Okay guys, moving on to the ENFJ. So I definitely was thinking of something that's ultra social and also with the predictive elements and maybe a touch of physicality. So I thought of the game of Mafia. It's a game where like you try to predict which one in your friend group is Mafia. Yeah, there's a huge social element. You're supposed to gauge people's facial expressions or whether they're lying and take in all these like emotional cues into account. So I thought it would be perfect for the ENFJ. Yeah, I guess it would be like similar to the wink murder or handshake murder games in that they're all pretty physical and you can get up and move around and come up with a story. So I thought it would be something that's also SE. For ISFP, I thought of something more artsy and maybe a little bit hands-on, but ultimately not like super social, so I thought of Cranium. I think Cranium is pretty fun. Like you do work in a group, but there's a lot of acting and sculpting with Play-Doh and drawing exercises, so I thought, with the expressiveness of ISFPs, that would be something that fit. Moving on to ESFP, which is kind of colloquially known as like the star of the MBTI types. They really like performing, so I thought of giving charades to represent the ESFP. It's also just very physical, which makes me think of like SE. You get up and do things. You represent the word or the phrase with your body. So yeah, I thought ESFP would fit. Oh, look, a kitty! Yo, this one. This one's a little SFP too, but I think she's an ISFP. Oh my gosh. So for the INFP, I thought of taboo. So I was thinking of something similar to the ISTJ because we have the same kind of functions. So I thought of something that also requires SI, like word, symbols, knowledge, but also maybe a bit higher in E. So I thought of taboo, which is like a game where you try to make people guess the word that's written on a sheet as fast as you can, one after the other, without saying the taboo words, I guess. I thought of the time restriction as higher in E because you have a limited time to explain these words as fast as you can, so I think you have to have some good in E to do that. You do work on a team, but there's not really a collaborative element. You're just trying to do as many words by yourself for your team, so I thought of that as like also lack of FE. So going along that note, for the ENFP, I thought of something that has even higher in E, and this is actually like one of my favorite games ever, but it's called Categories. For this game, you basically have a list of categories like animals or colors or female names, and you roll a dice that has the 26 letters. So if it ends on like the letter A, you have to quickly fill in words that begin with the letter A for all of the categories. So I thought of that as like very high in E, and also you don't really get the point if you put the same word as anyone else playing. Yeah, so once again, it's a very competitive game, but you also have to kind of predict what other people will do. So that made me think of like lack of FE, but also the ENFP is supposed to have like strong subconscious FE or whatever, so I thought that would fit. Yeah, just thinking of a word that no one else has thought of seems like very strong in E to me, so I put categories for the ENFP. Okay, so that was all 16 types. Thanks so much for watching. If you would like to support this channel, please check out our Patreon. Oh, I'm doing something cool for Patreon, by the way. So a lot of you guys have been asking us to type celebrities, and I started doing this exercise for myself where every day I spend 1 hour typing celebrities, and where I get these celebrities from, it's through all these lists. Like right now I'm doing the highest paid entertainers of 2018 list, and I'm just doing that so I don't keep picking the celebrities I like who might all end up being the same type or whatever. So now all of my patrons can basically tell me which celebrities to do. So yeah, for just $1 a month you can just keep telling me which celebrities to type, and that would be on the short list. Also, if you want to learn more about the 8 cognitive functions, they're written on my website, and I will try to update that fairly often so we can get some new information for you guys. Yeah, okay, that is all. I'll hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. This is so weird. There's like no one to talk to but myself. It's not like I think this game and then she says I think that game. It's just me being like, this is how it is. I'm so nervous. I don't know why I'm so nervous.
I can tell. Very stiff.
I'm very stiff. I am very stiff. YouTube is hard for a non-extrovert. I guess that's why we had 2 introverts to collectively become 1 extrovert, but now it's just 1 introvert.